Hola! Today our class is about the imperfect tense, el tiempo imperfecto. The imperfect is another form of the simple past tense in Spanish. The Spanish imperfect has three common English equivalents: the simple past, the past progressive, and the used to plus infinitive construction. For example, the sentence Rosario trabaja en la tienda. It could have three different meanings. It could mean Rosario worked at the store, Rosario was working at the store, or Rosario used to work at the store. Before going through the uses of the imperfect, let's start with the conjugation of AR verb in the imperfect form. Just as with other tenses, we always start with the stem of the verb. For example, hablar, you drop the AR and then you have the stem. Then you're going to add the endings. Yo hablaba, tú hablabas, él hablaba, ella hablaba, o usted hablaba, nosotros hablábamos. Make sure you put an accent mark in nosotros form. Vosotros hablabais, ellos, ellas hablaban, ustedes hablaban. Again, notice the written accent mark only on the nosotros form. There are no irregular AR verbs in the imperfect. That's good news for us. Now let's see ER verbs. For example, the verb comer. So you start with a stem and you go yo comía with an accent mark, tú comías, él o ella comía, usted comía, nosotros comíamos, vosotros comíais, ellos, ellas comían, ustedes comían. Now, what do we see here? All the forms receive an accent mark. All of them, all forms. And the accent marks go over the I, okay? The conjugation of IR verbs in the imperfect. Escribir, to write. Start with a stem. Yo escribía, tú escribías, él, ella escribía, usted escribía, nosotros escribíamos, vosotros escribíais, ellos, ellas escribían, ustedes escribían. All forms have a written accent over the I. Now, what did you notice? Well, the conjugation of IR verbs is identical that of ER verbs. So that's good for us. There are only three irregular verbs in the imperfect, and they are the verb ser. So you're going to say yo era, tú eras, él o ella era, usted era, nosotros éramos with an accent mark, vosotros erais, ellos, ellas eran, ustedes eran. Again, accent mark only in the nosotros form. The second irregular verb is the verb ir. Yo iba, tú ibas, él, ella iba, usted iba, nosotros íbamos, vosotros ibais, ellos, ellas iban, ustedes iban. Again, accent mark over the nosotros form. And the last irregular verb in the imperfect is the verb ver, to see. Yo veía, tú veías, él o ella veía, usted veía, nosotros veíamos, vosotros veíais, ellos, ellas veían, ustedes veían. All forms have a written accent mark over the I. Now let's go back to the use of the imperfect and try to understand the imperfect. The imperfect is always used to express age and time of the day in the past. This is a set stone rule. So remember, every time you talk about age in the past tense or time of the day in the past tense, you need to use the imperfect. For example, I was 15 years old when I learned to drive. So since I'm talking about my age in the past, I had to use the imperfect. Yo tenía 15 años cuando aprendí a manejar. Now I'm talking about time. Remember, time of the day? It was 10 o'clock when the train arrived at the station. Eran las 10 cuando el tren llegó a la estación. Another use of the imperfect. While the preterite tense is used to describe actions viewed as completed, the imperfect is used to, first, express that which happened habitually. Express ongoing actions and states in the past without reference to the beginning or ending. Express mental, physical, and emotional states in the past. Describe scenarios and situations in the past. Express indirect statements. Don't worry, we are going to see each one of them individually. Let's start with expressing habits in the past. Here we go. Well, in English, when you express something that was a habit in the past, you generally use I used to do something or I you do something in the past, okay? So, this is one of the classic uses of the imperfect to describe, for instance, our childhood habits and activities. Cuando era niño, when I was a child, yo siempre estudiaba solo en mi cuarto. So here when I was a child, here you're talking about age, so you have to use the imperfect. I always studied or used to study alone in my room. So since you're using like what you used to do in the past, like a habit, you're going to use this part of the sentence also in the imperfect. Cuando yo era niño, yo jugaba con mis amiguitos todos los días. Cuando yo era niño, comía cereal cada mañana. Leía libros de cuentos todo el tiempo. Iba todos los veranos a Disneylandia con mis padres. So all these examples we've seen so far, they are expressing something you used to do in the past. It was a habit in the past. Therefore, we need to use the imperfect. Of course, the imperfect is not limited to discussing childhood activities. Any habitual activities are expressed in the imperfect. Pedro comía en ese restaurante todos los sábados. So probably he doesn't do that anymore, but he used to do that. Ana iba de compras todo el tiempo. It's something that she used to do, but maybe now she doesn't more. Let's go to the second use of the imperfect. Express ongoing actions and states in the past without reference to their beginning or ending. Let's see some examples. In this case, it will be translated something like was plus ing, like the past progressive, okay? So the imperfect expresses something that was happening at a given time without reference to its beginning or ending. For example, Roberto was studying in his room. You could express that sentence using the imperfect. You say, Roberto estudiaba en su cuarto. Elena was washing the dishes in the kitchen. Elena lavaba los platos en la cocina. Yesterday, around 4 o'clock, I was reading the newspaper while my wife was watching TV. Here you were talking about two actions happening at the same time using the word while. So we're going to use the imperfect. Ayer, a eso de las 4, yo leía el periódico mientras mi esposa miraba la tele. Frequently, the ongoing action is interrupted by another abrupt or completed action that is expressed, of course, in the preterite. So in this situation, you're going to use one part of the sentence in the preterite and the longer action, the thing that was going on in the imperfect. Let's see an example. Look at this. Roberto was studying in his room when the phone rang. Well, here you have two actions. One is a long action, something that was going on, that was interrupted by a short one. The telephone rang, okay? So let's see. Roberto estudiaba en su cuarto cuando el teléfono sonó. We do the same in Spanish, but the long action you are going to express using the imperfect and the short one in the preterite. Elena was washing the dishes in the kitchen when someone knocked at the door. Elena lavaba los platos en la cocina cuando alguien tocó a la puerta. Again, what is the longer action? What was going on? Well, she was washing the dishes. Elena lavaba los platos, so you use the imperfect. Then she was interrupted because somebody knocked at the door. So you're going to use the short action in the preterite. Let's see some more examples. Conversábamos con el dependiente cuando Lourdes entró en la joyería. Las chicas salían de la tienda cuando Jorge las vio. Let's see another use of the imperfect to express mental, physical, and emotional states in the past. Alicia was happy during the concert. Well, when you express an emotion, physical or mental states in the past tense, you need to use the imperfect. Alicia estaba contenta durante el concierto. Nos sentíamos mal después de comer ahí. De niño, yo siempre creía en Santa Claus. Los estudiantes no querían estudiar aunque sabían que era necesario. One more use of the imperfect is to describe scenarios and situations in the past. This one is very much used, especially in literature. Okay, in books, novels, you're going to see a lot of the use of the imperfect describing scenarios. So let's see. It was a sad day. The weather was bad and it was raining. I was reading in my room and waiting for a telephone call. Anita was practicing the piano in the living room and the children were playing hopscotch in the garage. Okay? So let's see how it sounds in Spanish. We're describing scenario, situation. Remember, it's very related to like novels or when you're describing the scenario or situations. Era un día triste. Hacía muy mal tiempo y llovía. Yo leí en mi cuarto y esperaba una llamada telefónica. Anita practicaba el piano en la sala y los niños jugaban a la pata coja en el garaje. The last use of the imperfect that we are seeing today is to express indirect statements. Carlos said that Juan was coming to my house at 8 o'clock. Okay? So you could express that was coming using the imperfect. Carlos dijo que Juan venía a mi casa a las 8. The agents affirmed that the spies spoke English very well. Los agentes afirmaron que los espías hablaban muy bien el inglés. The police flyer states that the criminal was short and limped somewhat. El volante policíaco dice que el delincuente era bajo y cojeaba un poco. Now let's see an overview of the use of the imperfect. Number 1, this one is very clear. Age and time of the day in the past. Yo tenía 30 años cuando me casé. Eran las 3 cuando Hugo llegó. Habitual actions. It's kind of similar to used to or I would do something in the past. De niño, yo siempre comía cereal. Íbamos al parque con frecuencia. Hablábamos español en nuestra casa. Ongoing action in the past. Carlos leía el periódico mientras su hijo cortaba el césped. Description, setting the scene. Era un día muy lúgubre. El cielo estaba nublado y llovía a cántaros. Number 5. Mental, physical, and emotional states. Juan pensaba que necesitaba más dinero del que tenía para el viaje. Indirect statements. Pancho dijo que su hermano vendía su coche. Well, I hope that was helpful. Make sure you watch this video many times. This is a very important concept that we all need to grasp. Gracias.